Yes, people, welcome back to another episode of In Conversation with Rudy Samuel. I've got a lovely episode planned for us today. It's something very, very dear to my heart, just like all my other episodes. Anyways, if you don't know, I am South African born, Congolese origin, and I grew up here in Johannesburg. And we went through some stuff that maybe challenged our identity, challenged who we are. And I got some people who have the same or similar experiences to myself, and we'll talk about it, and we hope that it can educate you, it can help you think better about certain things. And yeah, here we go. Yes, people, as you can see, I've got such an amazing cast on my side. I know them personally, and today you guys are going to get to know them even more. So I'm going to start from this side, and they're going to go on and introduce themselves.
Good people, I hope you are well and winning. My name is Godfrey, and I am a liker of things. Godly things, just to be clear. And I summarize that through creativity. I'm a creative artist who expresses his creativity through photography, music, branding, strategy, content creation, content curation, ministry. I'm a creative director as well. I told you I like things. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation. So yeah, let's get it.
Hi, I'm Magdalene. I work at Discovery as a usability analyst or UX researcher. And I volunteer sometimes after work at church and all of those types of things. So I also really love God and all of that. I'm really happy to be here.
Hi guys, I am Mona and I work as a financial planner. Like the both of them, God lover. I'm part of the technical department at church. Excited to be here, Rudy Roo. Thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Samuel Okwagu. I'm a public health practitioner. They've already said they are lover of God. I'm also a lover of God. And I'm great to be here. I think it's always great conversating with like-minded people, especially people who are young. And yeah, so let's get it.
Let's get it. So where are you guys from? Let's start there. Where are you from?
I am from north of South Africa, somewhere up there across the Limpopo River. I'm from Zimbabwe, born and bred in Harare. That's the capital city.
When did you come to SA?
I came to South Africa in 2012. 2012 is when I came to South Africa, first year of university.
And you next?
Okay, so I was born in South Africa, but my parents are from Kenya. So I've been here my whole life.
Like my girl, I was also born in South Africa. My parents are Angolan, so I'm Angolan by nationality.
Okay, I was born in Nigeria. Came here in 2008, ending of 2008. So yeah, been here for over 10 plus years. So yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about obviously a lot of stuff. I think being first generation immigrants or children of first generation immigrants, there's a lot of stuff that we went through and experienced and stuff. So I want to know some of the experiences that we went through. Like I want to know, how did you guys maneuver between being South African from 8 o'clock until 4 o'clock at school? And then, or for us who were born here, and for you guys, how did you guys like get into the culture of South Africa? So for the ladies here, how did you guys maneuver between being South African from 8 to 4 and being Angolan and Kenyan from 4 until you went to bed? How was that?
Well, like, for me, it's always been a challenge, because I can't speak any of the local languages.
Yeah.
Of course. So it's like, I feel like, what are you doing with your life? Like, how could you not?
Yeah.
And then at home, we speak English. So, like, I didn't feel like there was any switch on, switch off when it came to being Angolan or South African. It just not being able to fully identify as Angolan, because it's some things you don't do that Angolan people do, but also not being able to fully associate or recognize yourself as being South African, because you're not South African. So it's like,
no, always remind you somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
But I always felt foreign, only because in primary school especially, like the children make you feel foreign.
Yeah.
Like, the local people chill together, the foreign people chill together. But yeah, like...
And you next?
I think I've had similar experiences, but The most interesting is the accent. So being at school, hey, what's going on? And then going home, somehow you reverse
You have to
it.
code switch. I don't know if you guys code switch, but
Oh, yeah.
I still code switch. I don't know if that's disrespectful.
Wait, what do you mean?
It's automatic.
Disrespectful?
Code switch, as you see, we speaking normally here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you go home, you kind of alter your English.
Now you're
for,
speaking a bit more
you know, mom and
African.
auntie to understand
Got
you
you.
properly.
Automatic. Yeah.
So when it's like when you're not articulating,
Yeah.
basically. when you,
But
You know, you don't get it.
You
I
speak
don't
more
do,
African.
no, I know what you're saying, but I don't do
So
that.
you don't code switch.
Also,
No.
you constant throughout.
No, yeah.
Okay.
So I tried to be like my girl Mona, and I got tuned out of my mind. My dad was like, "Listen, I know you go to Model C school, but please don't
At
do
home,
that."
you speak.
Yeah.
Hey.
Please do that accent for me.
No, I'm good.
No,
You'll catch me at
it
home.
it doesn't come out like that. Like it only comes out when you're around the
Yeah.
people.
It's
where
very
it comes
subliminal.
out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very subliminal. Like, you'll be talking to South African friends, then maybe like a fellow, maybe some Nigerian comes by, automatically, guy, how you doing now? It's like, and then you come back, so like, as I was saying, yeah. It's so natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so natural.
I mean, for me, it's. I think it's become a convenience thing. So whichever space you find yourself in, you of course have to adapt accordingly. And so, like, right from nursery school, right? I've been in sort of Model C or private schooling, right, from nursery school all the way till end of high school. In fact, even all my university experience have also been private, like, institutions. And so English is the primary language that you all connect with, right? So from wherever you are, it's kind of become, okay, I know what I want to say, and the only uniform or widely accepted way of saying it is through English, which everyone understands. And that's affected my my compass of sorts with my upbringing, my
Coming back home.
roots,
Yeah.
and all of that,
Yeah.
where to some extent, or to a large extent, I would say my first, or rather my primary language is English, right? Although my mother tongue
It's not.
is Shona,
Yeah.
right? Shona is one of the main languages in Zimbabwe. Just to end then, the way that I qualified it, I kind of came up with the hypothesis of sorts on this, that if you dream, speak, pray, and exclaim in a particular language, that's your primary language.
If speaking.
Yeah, so I mean, if as you're dreaming, if there are no subtitles in your dream, then that's your primary language. And with the exclamation, I adopted this from the Xhosas, right? So when I came to South Africa, I started off at Rhodes University. Rhodes
In the
University
Eastern Cape.
in the Eastern Cape, and the main languages in the Eastern Cape is Xhosa. Right, I'm so glad and proud of myself that I can even say that.
Bro, you're so fluent, eh? I envy you.
So with the Xhosas, right, exclamation is usually yo, like,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
you find that Xhosas are very proud about their primary language being Xhosa. And so they exclaim and pray in their first language, in the mother tongue. Whereas for us, I would say snap. Oh.
I still say yo.
No, but I adopted the yo, but I hope you're getting what I'm
Yes,
saying.
I see where
So,
you're
so,
coming
so,
from,
so
yeah.
like, if it's an American and when they exclaim, they say, oh my gosh, that's English, right? Whereas a Xhosa person or even a Zulu person may say, my babu or Tito or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, that's how I've seen it manifest or unfold in my life regarding language, culture, and adapting accordingly.
So has anyone from where we come from, or wherever you come from, make you feel some type of way because you're more English speaking? Because I know Francophone people, because in Congo they speak French,
Yo.
the Francophone tend to like degrade you just
Yeah.
because your accent is not like theirs. And it's like, but bro, I'm making the effort to speak this language. I've got to deal with Afrikaans at school, English, Zulu sometimes, and now I'm trying to speak this French, but you're laughing at me instead of congratulating the effort. I don't know if it's the same in your countries, but Francophone people are rough with that. Do they ever make you feel bad for not speaking the native languages correctly like them, or what?
It's standard procedure, bro. I think in a Nigerian home, uncles, aunts, gatherings, any chance they get, it's like it's a second nature thing to be like, and they deliberately speak to you, maybe because I'm Igbo. They speak to you Igbo and they'll wait for your response. if it's not sounding in a certain way, you're already looking suspect.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, because you grow up in different environments,
Yeah.
So in Nigeria, where I grew up, was very Yoruba dominated.
But you're Igbo.
But I'm Igbo.
Yeah.
And when my dad left to come to SA, obviously my mom was speaking to us more in English. So really, the Igbo sense, speaking fluently was not so common. I was more in tune with Yoruba because my friends were Yoruba and everything. Coming here, like you mentioned, with Afrikaans and everything. So that even pulled me further away because now you're learning like an actual language at school and everything. When I would go to family gatherings, so my dad is very into community outreaches, especially back home. So you have meetings like Nkwanumaya. So I'm from Umaya back home in Nigeria. So you have meetings where we try to get Nigerians in the diaspora, especially in SA. So you have big gatherings, food, music, culture and everything. So you have uncles and aunts who speak to you. So you almost have to learn. Because myself, I want to learn. So it's not like a thing of you just chilling. Because I'm big on Africa, I'm big on where I come from. So it's very deliberate. So you make intentional actions towards that. But the thing is, they don't see that to themselves. They just see the final product and the outcome that is, you're not correlating. You have lost your ways. You are a lost mind.
And
So
just to add to that, I think because they grew up with one thing. So they all grew up in Zimbabwe and Kenya, but we growing up with colored people from Durban, Cape Town, Northern Cape, Eastern Cape, and we growing up with white people, and we growing up with South Africans who are Zulu, Venda, Xhosa, Sotho. So our minds are completely different, and then I don't really agree with that whole you're not making enough effort because they don't really see what we do on a daily,
On that, I'm kind of a little bit offended by that because my parents didn't make the effort to actually teach me my mother tongue. But when I'm older, now suddenly, why don't you speak Kikuyu?
So how do you guys deal with that? Because it seems like you relate onto that. Because you told me off camera you don't really speak Angolan so fluently. How do you guys feel about it?
Personally, Angolan is not the language.
Sorry, I lost my...
I thought I should help you, my brother.
But you said it right, Angolan. I've had most people say Angolan.
Portuguese and Swahili?
Yes.
How do you guys feel about not speaking it so fluent?
For me, honestly, I will somewhat blame myself because I can't say that I consciously make the effort to learn to speak Portuguese because I'm so used to English and it's so much effort to the only time I have to put in the effort is if I'm speaking to my grandma or to my aunties that don't speak English and they're older than me, so I'm forced to. Like when we went to Angola, people don't speak English, so I had to force, and Portuguese came out. I don't know from where, but it came out, guys.
From tongues, you're speaking tongues, then translated into Portuguese.
I'm telling you. But the thing is, they didn't make me feel bad for not being able to speak. So I think they had that understanding that she didn't grow up here and everything. But also like Angolan people that move here, they're not really big on wanting to learn English. They still want to speak their Portuguese. So I guess it depends where you see yourself and you go more in tune with whatever language is predominantly spoken there.
For me, I've made a proper effort. Duolingo, we are together.
Duolingo, deep.
It is deep. And I've been
dedication.
on leadership boards and all of that type of thing. But it doesn't translate to actually growing up in a place where people are actually speaking the language and you're learning sentence structure from people who are speaking. So
and
it's
accents as well.
accent too. And I get things like you speak like a missionary, and it's just
like them ones who come to like
chest
church
pain.
and then leave. Chest when you're tourist in your own country, that's rough.
Exactly. So it has been a little discouraging, but I still push on, because you need to know the roots somewhere.
I mean, you obviously been born and raised there.
So you can speak it.
I've experienced friction both in my home country as well as here in South Africa, right? Partially, if it's back at home, there's the, so you think you're better than us kind of thing, just because of how I speak English and how my socialization and my upbringing, right? Whereas on this side, it's, you think you're better than us just because you have experienced certain things that locals haven't experienced or lived through, or how you present yourself and stuff, which is confusing. It's like, where do I fit? Where do I stand? Just then, because I know it was something that was very, very apparent in a very practical encounter where I was hungry and I was at a friend's place and I was in a high density area where I'm not exposed to or used to that kind of life, where I've lived in low density areas, right? And so even there, English is not really a thing. They don't care about it. And I wanted to get a snack. And the way that I firstly greeted the lady was already like, she was already, so the way that I knew I should greet. Manners first, because they won't even serve you sometimes if you don't greet. So I greeted her and she already was already apprehensive towards me. But I was like, okay, I understand. And I tried to speak the language as well as I could. So it's just a thing where, again, you have to adapt, but also face the reality that you are different and you're not off the place. So
you know what's most challenging actually? It's not even for me, it hasn't been family. For me, it's been like a work environment. Where you've got, for example, you've got people that are English speakers, and then you've got the locals that can speak like local languages. And then you've got you that is foreign. So you will speak English because you can't speak local. But then the local people might feel that you're trying to be fancy or better than, and then the English speakers will think you're trying to shy away from, because they just see black and they think you must know local. And then I'm like, so these people think I'm shying away, these people think, and I'm trying to fit in both ways. And it got to a point where sometimes I didn't go out for lunch anymore, because I'm like, usually people go for lunch at this time, they speak this language, and I'm like, let me just have lunch at my desk, because I don't want to feel what I'm feeling.
I think we always, as foreign nationals, if I can say, have always had to fight some sort of a battle. Like, just for the fact that you're foreign, you're fighting a battle. So I think when South Africans are saying stuff like they're stealing our jobs, I don't think they're, I don't want to say educated enough, but I don't think they're exposed enough to the realities of what's happening around. And I think maybe South Africans are very close-minded because maybe they haven't traveled much, or maybe they haven't left their surroundings. I think going out opens up your mind, because you get to meet people, you get to see how people think. So, because I know from where I come from, be accommodating. So if I'm in a place with Congolese people and he comes, I'm not going to speak Lingala or French. I know naturally I need to speak so that he can understand, but they're going to just go on and on.
And you
must pick up, and if you don't know, they will make you. Like in the taxi, we've all taken taxis. That was one of the roughest times of my life. 6 months into varsity, I was taking a taxi, and bro, I needed to stop ASAP. It was rough. And you know also what's worse is you're foreign, and you're sitting in front doing taxi mats. So the people who don't live in SA, taxi mats.
And then short left. You say short left like
So now that's where you have to code switch and say short left the way it's supposed to be.
Or it's like engine garage. Engine garage.
Garage. Like the one where you say after you stop, or after you turn. How do you say that one?
Short left.
No, something giga. How do you say that?
I don't know.
There's one that actually sparked me, right? So in some countries it's called a traffic light. In other countries,
robots.
It's a robot. So things like that. And I remember one of my first experiences. I was like, after the traffic lights, people looked at me like.
Even me, I'd look at you.
Even me, I'd look at you as well. Because you gotta, I think that's the thing. Being like a foreigner in the country, I don't like that term, but just for the sake.
Because and he had what he had.
I don't like that term, but I think that one of the, aside from everything else, you also have the burden of, do I say burden? But it's a task that you need to learn to adapt. You have to want to know how things are done. What's the way things are being done? Oh, okay, this is how I say this. Oh, hey, tada, how's it? Like you need to know all these things because you're more familiar in a setting. Because when I got to the country first, like it was a big culture shock. Going back to like your initial thing.
How old were you when you came?
I was like probably like 13.
So grade 7, grade 8?
Yeah, like 13, 14 thereabouts. I actually finished grade 8 in Nigeria, but I had to redo it when I came here. So, but the first 2 years was big adjustments. Even things like enunciating names, like names like Katleho. I'd be like Katalego. I literally announced it to her, sorry, and she'd be so offended, you know. But it was a culture shock because I was like Katalego, and she abused that. But you have to learn to adjust, you know. So I think it's part of being and someone who's not from here.
Yeah.
And so even like taxi mats and all those things, like I'm used to it now. I'm very comfortable in that kind of setting. So I think, yes, South Africans generally, there are things they need to learn, and it's very deep, it's deeply rooted because from the school settings, they're not being taught a lot in terms of their history, aside from what they already know, but in terms of like the relations between other nationals and how they step in, especially
exile stuff.
it's not really being taught out there. So sometimes when I speak to fellow South Africans and they say certain statements, some are they've made more research. They're more in tune and more knowledgeable about things. Some are it's still like gray areas, whether they don't want to know or they know, but they just choose, like, it doesn't matter. So it's a lot that we have to deal with, but I'm always of the mind that, like, we are all one at the end of the day. Like, the culture shock when I came was significant in terms of like how expressive South Africans were, but in terms of like the similar things we do, our passion, whether it's music, food, it's not so different because at the end of the day, what says the bottom line is we're Africans. So I think that's something we need to hold on to and find that the problem is not your fellow brother or sister. The system itself is not enabling enough for all of us to enjoy the resources that we strive to do, whether it's in whatever field. So the moment we start realizing, like, as a South African, as a Nigerian, as a Kenyan, Zimbabwean, that we're not fighting ourselves, it's more deeply within the system that we need to fight. The more we are open to each other and to whatever opportunities there are out there.
I love that. I wanted to go back again. I don't know about you because you came full varsity, but us who grew up here, if I can say, how difficult was it bringing friends home? When I say friends, I mean white friends and South Africans. Not all South Africans, but some, in terms of food. Because, you know, like, I don't know about Kenyans, but we, Nigeria and Congo cook with something called palm oil. That thing, when it smells, it smells. You know what I mean? And then you bring your non-Congolese or your non-Nigerian friend or non-Angolan friend home, and it's like, what's that smell? But you know that smell. So did you have some of those complexes growing up with bringing people home? And how did you guys maneuver through that?
You can go.
Oh, I never used to bring friends home.
Did your parents say no? Or was that
I was just never brought up that way. Like, I never went out a lot. It just wasn't a thing. And
is it because you were a girl? Because I know.
I think it is. I was gonna ask you actually, because my brother comes home with his friends. Like, it's like boys come, but none of my sisters have ever. Maybe we'll bring home one friend, and then my friend that I brought home would be like, she's foreign, babe. Or my neighbor, he's white, but he's like, they wouldn't act any type of way. So it was, and So
did you guys bring friends home?
Yeah, I did.
How was that?
I think for me,
imagine someone who's never seen a Lucy soup before.
Yeah.
How is he gonna react?
You know what's interesting with my side is, at some point, I started realizing that people actually love Nigerians.
Yeah.
It's just a stereotype of so many things.
Because
because the friends I started having, they were very inquisitive, like the movies.
Yeah.
Oh, have you seen Mr. Evil? Like, they knew things that I was like, Dad, you actually know that. They were telling me about jollof rice. So at the point when I was bringing friends, these were friends who were very, because I think the other thing that plays a role into it is, the more you come into your own as a person, it becomes so very much easy for you to, like, it's like second nature for you to relate with people, and people want to know more about, like, what you bring to the table. Yeah. So when I was bringing friends home, they were like inquisitive, like they wanted to know how things were done. They weren't like reserved whatsoever, because what you see is what you get with me. So you already have a sort of like a rough idea as to when you come back, like you're coming back to home. So the way my mom would greet you, she would take you literally as her son. Yeah. Like, hey, come here, how was school? Like, it's things like that. So So I never had an issue with bringing friends home. Yeah, because for me the standout factor was, the more I grew into my own self, being Nigerian, being African, everything else, like, if you don't vibe with me, then just stay your side. Yeah. I will meet my people and I will reconnect.
So for me, our food is actually quite universal in a sense, because we have a very heavy Indian culture in ours. So like roti is sort of our traditional thing. We have chapati, and there's like curry as well, but we obviously call it stew, and there's pap. I mean, who doesn't eat pap in Africa?
I don't eat pap.
Oh wow!
Really? Why?
What kind of Congolese are you?
I don't know one that doesn't eat pap.
I'm a bougie.
What you see exactly what we spoke about before.
Godfrey is looking at you with a side.
Yeah, y'all will be fine. Anyway, go on.
Wait, I think
I'm
also,
not okay. I'm not okay. It's not about the pop. Yeah.
I think another thing, sorry to interject, is I don't think it would necessarily be a friend with the friends that you bring home, because I think you choose your friends.
Yeah.
So there's a certain type of thinking that your friends have.
Yeah.
That's
I can.
now that you say it, I remember the friends I bring home are like brothers, and they're still in my life today. So I like that. That's pretty deep. Yeah.
That is also true. Yeah, so my parents also knew that I was very close to my friends. So it was kind of like hey, we know about you already. We've heard about you a lot. So it's never a thing of like, oh, I'm swallowing curry. What's going on?
What's going on?
I think with me, I think I fully came into myself. I think I was about 15, 16, so pretty late. I did have the complexes of you're a queer. I know you're
queer.
Yes, that stuff. So I went to primary school. My primary school was very white in the beginning, then became very mixed. You know, so we were from the same primary school. It was very white, all of a sudden it became very mixed. Then I went to a predominantly white high school. So of course I had the complexes and whatever. And I think around 16, 17, I made the decision, like you and you did at 13, 14, to just accept who you are. And I think once I did that, it was actually my weapon. Because I'm multilingual.
Yeah.
I understand Zulu, Afrikaans. I did well at school in Afrikaans. So I'm able to find myself everywhere. You can't gossip about me because I know, and I can stand up for myself, you know. So yeah, I think that was what helped me, just accepting who I was. And yeah.
With my experience, we didn't have friends over as often, or if it's inviting people, it would be mostly like the hood rats, right? Like the guys you grew up with, all your neighborhood friends.
So your parents' friends, kids.
Yes, so things like that. My very open and active interaction with people of other ethnicities, tribes, or races was mostly through school, right? And so any invitation that would be extended would be into my space, not necessarily our home. So dealing with those dynamics and navigating those kinds of spaces was quite interesting, and it's shaped me. And I'll double click on what Rudy said about being multilingual or multifaceted, right? Just because of what you've been exposed to, and I've gone through that as well, but mostly through school or formal settings, or so whether it was school or work. It's just, okay, Godfrey, how can you apply yourself in this conversational interaction as a black person speaking to an Indian or a white person, or if you're in their space, and if they're in your space, how can you present your standing respectfully, honorably as well, where, hey, this is what we do here, right? So I implore you, or I encourage you to embrace that or live in that. So yeah, it's been a work in progress, where along the way I've also had my insecurities or complexes, and I know, especially with sleepovers, right? So as boys, we grew up going for sleepovers everywhere. You kind of feel like, okay, their house is nicer than ours.
Those things,
bro. Or okay, we don't do this at home, so we're better. So there's kind of places where you win, and other places where you don't, or I like the way his dad talks to him. You know, those kinds of things that you have to navigate. But yeah, before I go off topic too much, that's kind of how I've had to navigate it. It's not always just being home, just because we didn't have as many people coming to our home, that it's been in other spaces where you've had to invite people into your space and navigating that. Yeah.
And talking about homeland, again, going back to growing up, certain stuff you were taught and certain things that happened. I think for the guys first, what did your dad do to you, maybe because of how he grew up with his dad and their dad? What did your dad do to you that you don't want to necessarily do to your son growing up? Well, when you have a son, or if you have a son.
You're going deep, Rudy.
No, because I think we can all say something serious about what our dads
of course.
Maybe because of a lack of knowledge from them, because they thought it was normal, because their dads did that. What do you want to do differently?
I think nothing crazy on my side. I think for my dad, because he did try his best in terms of growing with the times and being level-headed. Because you know, like African parents, it's very easy for them to be very one-dimensional thinking. They will tell you, no, don't do this, because in our times we never did this. You know, you have to be very, so many like cautionary, don't this and that.
Yeah.
I think for me specifically, my dad was at a point very reserved with his feelings and expressions. Like he never once, at least growing up, like pull you in to say, okay, this is how things are done, or like more emotional platform for you to feel free to say, okay, as I am with my mom, I know to a certain extent I can be with my dad. So he was very on the go, methodical about things. Like you almost have to learn on the go by seeing his actions really. So now he's improved the way he's more communicative. He's more bring it in, like, okay, I want to do this. What do you think? Oh, this happened. What do you think about it? What do you? So I think for myself is, I know how much I needed that growing up, especially like because he left Nigeria at some point to come over here for a better living. So I know how much I needed that guidance to say, aside from just your actions, you talking and actually leading to say, this is how things are done. So, and for some people it could turn left, where when they don't have that guidance, it's very easy for them to go left fully. And at the point of recovery, it's too late now. So I think for my kids, what I want to do differently as a father is to be more involved, step in from foundation roots, and just like grow them up in the same sort of mindsets, even though being open-minded, but at least showing them that this is how things are done as a man, this is how things are done. And even as a man talk, there's certain things about vulnerability. It's not a taboo. You can also be vulnerable and have certain expressions of how you want to go about things. So I think that's, for me, it's something that stands out.
I think for me, we grew up the same. I think we have the same things. But I think our dads, as foreign men in this country, needed to always be at work. Because I don't know if you see false days. You see, understand which parents do you see. You see the white parents. Because the white parents leave work, or they have businesses, or whatever the case may be. So I think our parents were always at work just to make ends meet, because they were foreign. And I appreciate that. Thanks, mom and dad. But going back to what you said, you know, the little things. I don't know about you guys, but there was always a thing where when dad gets home, for some odd reason, you just evaporate from the lounge. Maybe he didn't even do anything, but it's that thing of, hey, dad's home. You know, let's go. But I don't want that for my kids. And no offense to my dad, it's just, it is what it is. Maybe that's how he grew up, and then we grew up, my sister and I, and when dad's home, we go. But I would love for, when I arrive home from work, they come to me and say, yo,
that was us, my dad. So we fight, like, I'm gonna sleep on him.
Girls, you check. I think it's different with dads and girls. I think for the guys with your dad, there's always that, I'm the dad and I'm the son. And I think I would like to be more of friend and dad, and then friend in my 20s. I think we became friends in my 20s, but growing up there was that, hey, no, XYZ, so yeah.
But don't you think that made you respectful? Because like, 100%. If you look at,
yeah, I think he taught me whatever needed to be taught. But there are certain things where even today, I'm like, can I be vulnerable about that? He wants me to, but remember, I didn't have that.
Foundation,
so it's like, how do I become a bit more vulnerable? Is he going to shout at me like he used to do when I was younger? Because when I'm small with friends, then there's a time where it finished, and then now it's coming back all of a sudden. So
no, their intentions are definitely pure.
Yes, 100%.
Like I respect it.
They're not the opposition.
Yeah, my dad will always say, some things I'm doing now, you'll thank me later, or when I'm gone, you realize like, damn, this is really what it takes. And even like as you get older in your 20s, already you're fitting into the boots of certain things. Like I recently traveled back home, and I had to almost technically be the dad in terms of bills, second things at home and stuff like that. So you already understand the role it takes. Sometimes it's not that they don't want to. The pressure, societal pressure, it's heavy. So they don't know how to, you know, it's almost like when they come home, it's like transferred aggression. When they go out there to the world and they like face like this wall, bust boost here and there. When they come home, they still carrying that crazy, angry face. So, yeah, no, definitely, the intention is pure. But I think now
execution was the problem.
Exactly, and us as a younger generation, where we've seen that side, we're able to now mix breed and be more intentional about the things that we know that we needed when we were younger.
Yeah, thanks, bro. I think I'm really looking forward to being a lot more relational than transactional in my home, towards my wife, towards my kids. Unfortunately, sadly, that disparity between older generations and us is how transactional relations led the way a lot more, and it was understandable, right? If it was expressing affection for our parents and older, it's what was done more than what was said. And for us, I think we also appreciate what is said, coupled with what is done. And so for me, I want to definitely be able to balance it better with what I do for my kids as well as what I say to them.
Yeah.
If it's affirming them, if it's encouraging them, if it's supporting them, that's what I definitely want to do, because I didn't really experience that much, and I didn't understand until I was older, where I know my dad loves me, but he's never really said it, right? And so like I've wanted to hear it. So the instances where he has said it is like, wow, my dad loves me, or my dad is proud of me, or my dad wants to see me win, right? Even though you know it. And just because it's shown, then it is stated. So that balance it becomes a transactional thing where I'll only tell you that, I'll only say whatever I say to you if you pass your exam. Or I'll only, that transactional thing. Do well in school and then you'll get, or do well in, I don't know, whatever else you may be assigned to do.
Don't smoke, don't drink.
Yeah, don't smoke, don't drink, don't get into trouble, don't go to jail, and we'll be good, right? So that's very transactional. So I'm hoping to be a lot more relational. Just also hopping to what my brother was saying about how you can be more vulnerable, you can connect empathetically, and you can be more sympathetic with your children. I definitely want to be that. So yeah. I know you love me, Dad. I know you love me. Just because of what they've sacrificed. Just quickly as I can close. I know that love gives. I know that love sacrifices. And I've literally been a beneficiary of so much that my dad has sacrificed. So I know he does. No, like me coming to SA, guys, it's expensive. Right? But I'm here. I've been privileged enough to enjoy so many wonderful things. And I know it's the fruit of sacrifice, and so I know that he loves me, but I definitely want to hear him say it as well. So things like that,
And for the hands, the ladies, I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but a lot of Congolese girls complain that them and their moms is a bit tough. So how was it for the two of you with your moms, and what would you do differently? And do you guys also agree that you don't have a brother? She's a bit tough. You have a sister. You have a brother. Do you agree that moms are way more lenient with their boys?
No. My mom is tough on my brother.
I think he's the only one, so it's your brother.
She's like very tough on the kids. I'm like,
that's so new, for an African mom, because so many African, even behind the camera, they're nodding very hard. The African mom is very kind and choked with their brother. But I want to know more about you and your mom how that was.
Me and my mom have got a good relationship, like a very good relationship. We do butt heads on some thoughts. Like, I'm like, no, it's not like that. She's like, I'm older than you, I've lived longer than you. It's like that. And so we do butt heads, but I think for the most part, I'll listen to and learn what I have to. But if I don't agree, then I just keep quiet, because there's no point in ruining a relationship just because you don't agree. So we butt heads, and where I think, it's not gonna help me, it's not gonna help her, then I take the step back. That's just how I am. Relationship is good with my mom. Yeah. Is that the that was the question, right?
I think for me, it wasn't really a case of like she didn't know how to raise me, if I could put it that way. It was more just like a difference in love languages. She is a very acts of service person, and I really needed a hug. And she needed hugs. So I always grew up thinking my mom hates me just because she didn't give me a hug. And I'd see all the other kids getting hugs from their moms, and I'd be like, no, definitely my mom doesn't love me. So obviously growing up and learning what type of love languages are, and like having more exposure and those types of things helped me a lot in understanding how she expresses her love. And then of course when I started to understand that, I was like, oh yeah, she does love me. Of course she did not say it, just like the others. But we technically had a good relationship, I just didn't know it at the time.
And funny enough, my mom was not expressive in terms of like I love you. For her, it's like I felt like it was hard for her, but she was a very acts of service person, like you know. My dad, on the other hand, is very expressive. So every day he'll tell you, "I love
That's
you."
my dad. Yeah.
Like you know, he's very expressive. And then my mom was the hardcore one. Like
It's always like a.
You just touched on something, and I hope it won't wreck us on the course of the conversation. But that love languages thing is actually like an epiphany that, oh shucks, now I get it. Because so for me, words of affirmation and quality time are usually in the top 3, always, no matter how many times I do the test at various intervals, right? Whereas my dad, for example, or at least just since in line with what we're talking about, with my dad, acts of service and probably gifts is like his top 2 or 3. Just because for him, what he experienced was, hey, I love you, and I love you through paying your fees, giving you food and clothing you, a roof over your head, you know. So him just translating that to his kids, including myself, it's kind of like, yes, this is great, thanks, pops, but what about the other love languages? So we definitely then had a bit of an altercation, a big one. In fact, I'm trying to douse the volume there when I say it's a little altercation, but it was a huge fallout where I didn't know how to say that what you're doing is not adequate in this way, right? And that shattered him, because he's like, but my guy, I've been doing this all your life. What do you mean I don't love you? Or what do you mean I'm not doing enough? And it's like, sorry, I'm trying to say it. What you have done is great, but there's more. And shucks, I know you've already given a lot, but there is more. So trying to communicate that at that age was very difficult, and I actually just botched it. That's the truth. But then following that has been a lot of restoration, where this is what I meant to say. This is, kind of things, and so it's a mission.
Yeah, and before we end, I wanted to focus on one more topic, something called black sex. We're all working, we're all doing something. What do you guys think about black sex? I think it's abusive when it comes from family members who aren't doing anything. I think it's toxic. If it's a cousin who's in primary school, no problem. If it's an aunt who's able to fend for herself, I don't mind helping. But if you're depending on me because I'm working, and you're saying because you're working, because I've changed your nappies, give me, I think it's a problem. What do you guys think about black sex?
I would say this. Tax in itself may not entirely be a bad thing. I mean, we all pay taxes in one way or another, right? So, there may not be too much resistance if that tax is being used properly. That's another thing, right? So just creating a bit of a foundation. Now, when it comes to black tax, or at least in the context of black families, I think things, again, having presented that foundation, things go south when you feel that this tax that you're paying is not being used well, or that it is being demanded when it's unjustified or unwarranted. And a third pillar there is when you're also fighting entitlement, right? So that's how I've thought of black tax, where, to be very honest and frank, I don't mind supporting a family member, especially when I connect with the reality that they need that support. I don't mind doing it. But I think I would appreciate having the agency to choose that I want to do it. Want to do it. Not have to, but want to. And lastly, I think communication goes a long way, where a government clearly communicates that because you're a citizen, or if you're contributing to the economy, you have to pay tax, and the tax is used for this. It may not be actually used for it, but they communicate, right? So when you then earn your money, and account for what has been communicated, that I have to pay tax. Whereas if someone expects something but they haven't communicated effectively, then they abuse you or mistreat you because of what they're entitled to or feel entitled to, things go south where, hey, you're abusing me. I don't have to do this, but I am. You know what I mean? And that's just the communication breakdown. But that's a comprehensive response. But those are my thoughts. on black tax?
Oh, I was actually going to speak about the agency thing because I should have a choice on whether to say yes or no because it turns into emotional blackmail. You cannot be telling me that if I don't like give money, then you're such a bad person. I should have a choice. And if you're giving me some sort of like moral standing that if I'm not doing this, then I'm not a moral person, then that is emotional blackmail, and then I'm giving grudgingly as well. Yeah.
For me, I'm actually doing a study on this. So it's like, I feel two ways about it. So on the one end, I'm like, that's what makes, I think, the black culture beautiful. The fact that we are willing to help our brothers and sisters. Because with the client base that we have, for them it's very foreign. Like, once you're like 18 or 21, you're cut off, deal with you. We've given you this, you know, don't come to me, or, you know, you can't ask for help. So I think it's a blessing that we're able to depend on our family for help when we need the help. But where I don't like it is in your instance where people expect it. So it's like you have to.
And if you don't,
you're disrespectful.
And for me, it's just like, if you're not able to do something for yourself, you have no right to want someone to be able to do it for you. I've always had that mindset, and I think people need to have that mindset. So if you can't do it for yourself, you can't be mad when someone can't do it for you. So it leads back to choice. And also, I get very emotional about this topic because the blackmail part is not nice. Because I've also seen in a lot of families that the child that gives the support will be favored, and the one that doesn't won't be favored, and you see a very difference in respect, in treatment. And this is just like, just looking at different people that have experienced it, and I'm like, that shouldn't be the case, because now it becomes a thing of, you love me because of what I can do for you.
Sure.
And I don't think in family, but I do believe that everything in life is a transaction. But I think as a family, it's very, you have to be very
careful,
conscious to not ever turn your family bond into a transactional one, because it's going to damage family dynamics. So for me, I'd rather help in a bid to save the family dynamic, but I just think that people need to be aware of that.
And you, Sam?
I feel like with anything in life, there has to be a good balance. Black tax, definitely, it's a thing. I think, from my experience, one interesting thing I found is, you know, once you cross the borders of your country and you're in another man's country,
you are rich.
Automatically, they have assumed that you have acquired a certain level. Did you get me? No matter what you say, if you have spent 5 years in that country, what are you doing? Why are you not sending money back home? The entitlement is very strong. So it's like, they don't realize that the minute you step into another person's country, it's much more harder, because you have this. They think the opportunity is advanced and it's enormous. It is, but the thing is the accessibility to it at the same time, and the same breath, is not as easy. So with families back home, because I've been on so many calls, like Zoom calls, relatives, uncles, aunts, it's very natural for them to like, oh, how are you? How's school doing? Oh, you've graduated. When are you working? Oh, no, I'm starting. Oh, you're starting. Send me some money now. This and this, I need it. It's because they feel, again, it's family. So it's very natural that we want things from each other. If you can help, why not? Why don't you uplift me? But there needs to be a good balance where we don't abuse it, and we don't make people feel like they're just like a piggy bank where we just have to always take. It needs to be something of, I'm helping you get to a certain level so that once you get here, because not only am I improving my immediate family, I'm also improving our generations to come. Because when my children are of good standing, and when your children are of good standing, we're creating a dynamic where, my son is Okwagu, we're creating a dynasty of Okwagus where everyone is doing great. So in as much as on the one side, I am for black tax to a certain extent, if you can do it. But on the other end, is to say, uncles, aunts, relatives, like, don't abuse it.
Think for yourself.
Don't abuse it. And even you as a person, you need to know when to say no sometimes. You can't always be yes. My dad, God bless his soul, such a lovely man. He does sometimes. When it comes to community projects, because he's very passionate about improving the life of where he comes from. He tells us all the time, tells me all the time, when I get to a certain level, I need to come back home. The roads are bad. There's no electricity. Like, he always, so he's very in tune of what's going on back home. He's even the chairman of the local community board. So sometimes he feels the need to always want to give, and sometimes it could be to a detriment of your own family, detriment to the own people who are immediate to you. So it now looks like, oh, you're always doing that, but then when we need something here, it's a problem. So as an individual who's doing so well, wherever you may be, in the black tax conversation, always know where the limit is. So you don't become so accessible to people out there where you're affecting those who are here. But at the same time, you're showing them that, listen, I'll take you to the water, teach you how to drink and everything. But I'm not going to force you and have to spoon feed you. Say, listen, this is everything that you know. So I think the balance is what's important. So definitely.
Can I just add one thing? Sorry. I think also another important thing is I think when it comes to black tax, it's largely influenced by financial literacy. I think with a lot of young black professionals of our age, for many of us, or even like it's leading to new money. So like, you know, so it's a matter of, if you know you have black tax, you should budget for that in your expense. Too many people have this thing of, you know, I'll give as and when. And then that becomes a problem because now you're frustrated at the fact that you didn't budget for it, but you know that every month you will give to it. And then you know, so like I think people need to be conscious, put it as an expense item on your spending plan. And also don't be too caught up on trying to attain a certain lifestyle at the demise of your family. So I understand that, you know, we want to improve our life, that's good. But remember the work that your mom, your dad, your uncles have put in, because, you know, we were raised by a village. Like it wasn't a one-man story. So when you can help, but just you know how to, don't live too much above your means, and don't forget where you're coming from.
I mean, this conversation is so layered. There's so many things we could have uncovered. Like the sex, talking about sex, boyfriend, girlfriend.
We never spoke about that.
Exactly. Your
only
first
when you turn 20 something.
You know, your first period, you know, marriage. There's so many things to uncover with this conversation, because it just shows how the black African culture is so vast, it's so big, it's so layered. And I'm hoping it sparked a conversation for the people that will watch with their friends and their families to make things better for us going forward. Maybe we can become more financially literate. As Mona said, if you need any financial help, the details will be at the bottom. You know, if you up with something, you know, we never know. So yes, like I said, we could have spoken about so many things. Maybe there'll be a part, maybe they won't. But we hope that we've touched a lot of the important things. And you know me, I'm all for conversation. So thank you to you amazing people for coming on and sharing some of your story. Thanks to my boys at Blue It Sticks Studio in Maboneng for the lovely place. I really appreciate that. Thanks to Flavor22 for this lovely t-shirt. If you want to get any football, retro, old t-shirts, please man, give them a follow, give them a DM, get something for you, your dad, your brother, your boyfriend, or your husband.
How about your sister?
If your sister likes all football kids, no problem, go ahead. You know, but yes guys, I'm your boy Really Samuel. Thank you so much for watching. Shout out to Leonie at the back of the camera. And I'm signing out. Boom.